I guess we're on.
We're
Hi,
on.
yeah. Hi, Clayton. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you, Joe?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. To those who don't know, this is Clayton.
Hello,
Clayton.
viewers.
Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience while I fix this?
Sure. So my name's Clayton. I am married to Josh's sister, Bethany.
So what you're saying is this is nepotism.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, I know very little about chess, so we'll see how this goes. Could be.
What's your favourite thing about chess?
We haven't started yet. How can you ask me questions?
That's a good question. Okay, we've got 5 minutes for introductions. I'm trying to get in your head before we start this war.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
So you're also a senior biometrician, correct?
That's correct, yeah. In other words, a statistician.
A statistician.
Yep. But that does not give me any advantage when it comes to chess, I don't think.
Okay. Chess is a game of maths. Have you ever looked into the statistics of chess?
I haven't. No. Maybe I should.
Clayton recently just got married to my sister, who's in the room. Say hi, Beth.
Hi.
What's up? Yeah. It was a beautiful wedding. You're a beautiful man. Glad you're in the family.
Thanks.
But this is war. Also, people will notice we're wearing berets. Nothing else to add there.
Yep. No.
All right. So, is there anything that you wanted to say before we got into this?
I just hope we're friends afterwards.
Okay. Yeah. Or maybe we'll just be brothers-in-law. We shall see. I hate this chair so much. I understand why people don't want to sit here. We're going to get started.
All
right. Good luck.
Thanks. You too. I don't think you'll need it, but yeah, we'll see how we go.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right. Awesome. I'll start your timer off. Ready?
Okay.
And now we're in the game officially.
All right. Cool. And so I tap mine.
Yep. And then I'll go and we're off.
Okay, we're off and racing. So, Josh, who is your favourite sister and why is it my wife?
That feels prepared. That feels like a prepared question. Okay. So
I'm going to interrupt you now. This takes on a whole new level of difficulty when there's like a clock involved.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyway,
it's going to stress us out.
Yep.
I have to answer that question though. So
yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I don't have a favorite sister. I promise I don't have a favorite sister.
Is it likely the other sister will watch this podcast?
There's zero chance that she'll watch this podcast. And Bethany's in the room right now, and she did visit Melbourne, so she's actually scoring a lot of points.
Okay.
And there's things that I like about Bethany more than I like about Rachel, my other sister. But, there's things I like about Rachel more than Bethany. Rachel bought me a DS.
Cool.
Goes a long way, but, so I refuse. I don't refuse to answer the question. I leave it vague. So, Clayton, what's the weirdest thing about my family?
The weirdest thing about your family. Let's go there. You have a beautiful family. I don't know.
You're trying to get it off your time. Yeah, continue.
Yeah. You have a beautiful family. I don't know whether there's anything all that weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think your answer will change in 5 years, 5 to 10?
Probably not, because I've been around for a little while, so I've seen a bit.
That's true.
But no, I think it's pretty good. Oh man, there goes the first piece. All right.
We're capturing a moment in time right now. What's your favorite thing about this moment in time?
That's the berets. See, I need to put it back on you so I can ask you another question.
Good luck.
But yeah, exactly. What am I doing?
I've realized that doing this podcast, I'm getting a lot of experience playing this game of chess.
All right, let's try that.
Yeah. You don't know what your favorite thing is about this point in time?
Yeah, I said the berets.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good. That's clever.
Yep. All right, so I did have some questions prepared.
Oh my God.
The first one. Yeah.
Incredible.
Or I think the next one's a bit more deep and meaningful.
I'm glad I've
Hopefully
distracted
it'll
you.
Distract you for a little
I'm
while.
glad I've distracted you. Do you see anything on the board right now that could be a problem for you?
Probably lots of things, really.
How mean do I want to be, Clayton?
Yeah, well, you just take me out. Yeah,
I'm just going to take this night.
Yep. Fair enough. So...
Just remember, Clayton, you're on your time.
Yeah.
This is a rough game I'm playing. Welcome to the little brother attacks oldest brother-in-law.
Yep. All right, let's do that.
Brilliant.
So, if you could only listen to the music from one band or artist for the rest of your life,
Beatles.
Which one would you choose? The Beatles.
Yeah, it just came to me then.
All right.
I feel like they invented... I mean, everyone talks about the Beatles a lot. I feel like they definitely invented like pop music and like that sort of the modern era of music. They have such catchy hooks and so many songs. Like there's a ridiculous amount that is there to be sort of had and felt. In saying that, I've passed my Beatles phase and I don't really listen to them as much anymore. But I guess if I had to pick one, they're 4 amazing artists at the same time.
Yep.
It's like, because John went on to make solo music, Ringo as well, and George Harrison. Like all 4 of them went on to make solo music. And Paul McCartney formed another band and stuff. So it's like, yeah, probably Beatles.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's for an answer that just popped into your head, that's a pretty well considered answer, really.
Thanks. If you had to pick one cricket team, no, sorry, I'm not. What is your cricket team?
Oh, probably the Brisbane Heat.
Yeah.
So yeah, they did well a couple of seasons ago. Not so well this season, but yeah.
Do you think of yourself as a cricket boy? Like, is there a specific type of dude who, or like girls as well? But is there a type of person who loves cricket?
Yeah. Well, I think the stats component probably helps a bit. I think for cricket. So that's one part of cricket that I really do enjoy is the statistical side of things. Not that it's advanced stats or anything, but there is a fair bit of stats that goes into cricket. Yes, cool.
Do you think about life events statistically? Because it's your job, but do you think about like what's sort of going to happen in your life, or whether to worry about certain things or be happy about certain things? Or
No, not really. So yeah, I suppose like sometimes you can frame certain things in a statistical light, and so one thing that we like to talk about sometimes is if we go with sport and what the probability is that a given or a certain team will win a given game. So if we go cricket, one team may be a 20% chance of winning, the other team an 80% chance of winning. And so that you can look at things in a different light that way. But yeah, I suppose it's a perspective that we have and that we like to keep. Oh man, I don't. Oh, can I touch that piece?
I don't mind.
All right, cool. Yeah, but I don't know whether it's a lens that is always in focus, if that makes sense.
Did you always have... I know I'm doubling up the questions
here. You
it's
are.
rough. But did you
rough.
always have quiet confidence or a knowledge that you were going to be successful in your life?
Oh, who's to say I am successful?
I would say you were quite successful.
Okay.
You've...
I'm not very successful at playing chess while answering these questions.
Okay, yes. So, success can be measured in different lenses. I understand what you're saying. But, like, when you think about... I don't know. I look at you, I see someone who... works hard, has stayed consistent with working hard in a field you enjoy, has built up community and people, and that's the same thing. But you know what I mean? And assets, like your car was quite nice. You got a quite nice car. You've left home and become your own man and planted some roots, and you wouldn't say that anyone dictates anything that you do. You make your choices. It's a successful... I think you're successful. So within that, like, I don't know. Did you always know that this was sort of the version of you were going to become?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. I think I've been very lucky in many ways. With, well, first of all, my parents and the upbringing that I had, and then just through, I don't know, opportunities that presented themselves. And yeah, I think, yeah, it's nice to be where I am now. But there's still so much more to come. And I don't know. I think I'm just saying words at this point, really. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know of anyone.
Did you have a vision for yourself when you were like a teenager?
Oh yeah, I wanted to be a meteorologist. Yeah. I think my uncle said it's the only job that you could keep where you could be wrong 90% of the time. And yeah. Anyway, but yeah, that didn't happen, and I'm very happy that it didn't happen.
You never have like second thoughts on meteorology, you know? Like
no, not at all. I love my job as a statistician.
You never watch the news and say, "Oh, fuck, could have been me."
No.
Hold on, give it a sec. This is my stupid. I have this app.
Yeah.
Which like,
yep.
It makes you not use apps, and apparently chess is an app I'm not allowed to use.
Okay. So no, I don't regret not being a meteorologist at all. I love my job as a statistician. Yeah, the opportunities that I've had in that job have been amazing. Got to see a lot of Australia, got to travel overseas a couple of times, which has been incredible, to conferences.
Wow.
And then also got to travel to Ethiopia to deliver some statistical training workshops over there, which again was an amazing experience, and even better to be able to do that with Bethany as well.
That's true. Is that list of things that you're like sort of proudest of in your life? Is that one?
Yeah, that would definitely be one of them. So
do you want to talk about that? Because I know the Ethiopia stuff. Yeah. But give it 30 seconds. What are you doing in Ethiopia while were you there?
So we were there educating plant breeders and pathologists on use of, I suppose, modern statistical methods in agriculture. So was fortunate enough to go twice, both for a 2-week stint. Fair bit of work while we were there, as in you hit the ground running and training solidly for 5 days in a row, 1 day off, then go again. But the ouch. It was just awesome. Ouch in many ways. Oh man. Okay. Yeah.
So you're talking about just in some deep thought there.
I was. So yeah, awesome to be able to. Oh gosh. I'm just, and that's check. Is that checkmate?
That is check. No, it's not checkmate. Oh wait, no, it's not checkmate. I'm gonna ease up for a second. I will after this. It's not checkmate. Don't worry. Yeah, it's not. So whenever you in check, there's 3 things that can happen, right?
Yeah.
It's CPR. You can
right. So sacrifice this.
Capture, protect, run, and you're doing the protect. But it's not Oh man, I've cooked you. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to not win.
Just win.
That's true, because we can play multiple rounds. Yeah. No. I need to get my fill, Clayton. Beating up on people who don't play chess much. I'm curious, do you see, I don't know if that's a dick thing to say, do you see what the next move is for me? This is a thing I would always do when I was teaching chess. I would get them to be, if we got to a point in the game where it was a bit intense, say, okay, what would you do? And then it's like you sort of figure out the checkmate.
Well, I think you have to take the queen, don't you? Otherwise, I'm going to take that next turn.
What's the other option?
There's another way that you can put me into check and have to make me do something else.
What was your queen doing when it was on the back rank? It was protecting. What was it protecting?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Put it back on the back, or think about it back on the back rank.
Yeah, yeah.
What's it looking at of your pieces?
Oh, well,
The king.
The king, yeah, yeah.
And then something else.
Either the castle or the pawn.
Yeah, it's the castle.
Yeah. Okay.
So now I could take the castle. I wouldn't have to lose a queen. And it would give me like that 5-point advantage.
Yep. And then I'm buggered.
Yeah, and then I think it would be checkmate because you couldn't jump up.
Oh, yeah, I can't jump up.
You would be able to jump down with the queen to protect, but then my queen could come along and snap.
There you go.
And I'm sorry. Let's set it up and go again. And we can play that out if you want.
Cool. You can have that one.
And that's content, This is this is the content people want.
Awesome.
But we're going to crack in deeper.
Cool.
You have to make a move.
Oh, aren't I done? No?
Nearly. I mean, we could call it.
No, that's all right. So I think I go there, yeah?
You can go there. All right. Epic.
And now we're done.
Now we're done. Thank you, Clayton.
No worries.
Thank you, first round.
Very good.
All right. What's some post-match thoughts there, quickly?
That is incredibly difficult to answer questions and try and figure out a game that you don't know too much about. Yeah. I feel like all of those questions that you've asked, I've done a very poor job in answering.
I don't believe so.
Yeah. I don't know. You just get a distracted answer, as in for lots of it, I felt like I was just giving you words that probably actually mean nothing and don't really represent what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's the interesting. This is the interesting thing about versing you, and it'll be interesting about versing Bethany as well. Is like you're both calculated people. Like in terms of you like to probably like you especially like to say what you mean, and you wouldn't. Yeah, Beth, you could reset the camera and do it again.
How do I do that? Do I press the record button and then press it again?
Yeah, press the record button.
Okay. And now press it again?
Yep. And is it looking like it's recording? Where it has the little red in the corner or
Yeah,
something?
it has the rec, yes, and it's counting down from 20 minutes again.
Brilliant.
Cool.
Too good. This is so good to have someone next to the camera. So, yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, I think you like to think about things. You take some time. You think about what you're saying.
Yeah.
So then, is this like a strange thing to have to respond in?
Yeah. Sort of. Yes.
Yeah, right. It's like, here's the thing about this podcast. It might just be that it means you don't get chess and you don't get conversation. That could be what's happening.
It sort of needs to be one or the other.
Yeah, so it's like you're not actually, but then there's like the potential that what you get is...
Yeah.
Well,
That's true.
There's like a thing of comedy that I sort of realized when I was doing like boyos, but it's like, I think what makes comedy maybe work is if you make people uncomfortable, but they're voluntarily doing it.
Yeah.
Like if that, like, so you'll see like the interviews where people, that wasn't the intention of this podcast. It was just like a curious thought, but it's like people eat spicy stuff and do interviews, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. We get like some sort of satisfaction of watching other people in discomfort.
Yeah. No, fair enough.
Yeah. Like, okay, your best mate is like, one of your best mates is Trent.
Yep.
Was there ever a time that he was in extreme discomfort that made you quite happy?
Probably plenty.
Okay. Is there any you can share?
So we have a saying between a few of our friends that when the gap closes, and so that comes from I can't actually remember what it was, whether it was a birthday party, a get together, and we went go-karting, and in Harvey Bay, go-kart track's actually closed down now, but at the top of the hill there was a bit of a hairpin bend, and anyway, Trent and another friend were going around the corner, and one of them thought there was a gap, but the gap closed, and two go-karts came together. And so I blame my go-kart, I was in one that was chugging along, so I was not involved in the altercation, but I was coming up the other side of the hill and heard a noise, looked to my left and saw the bottom of Trent's go-kart go cartwheeling beside me.
It actually flipped.
It did flip. Yeah.
Christ.
So he has managed to, the two of them have come together. One of them's flipped. No serious injuries.
Yeah.
And Trent has ended up on top of another go-kart, which was the friend who's, the gap closed for.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they were both okay. But for the rest of the day, Trent, I don't know whether he has a strong pain threshold.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a fairly serious graze, but it was like he had his leg amputated. And we didn't stop hearing about it for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the other thing is, like you go to those places and the guys that give you the safety demonstrations are so chill. Like, they're there in their flannels or their singlets, with a smoke and that sort of stuff. I've never seen, picture that, one of those guys running like Kathy Freeman up this hill to make sure that everyone was okay. They're the two memories that I have, is watching this go-kart cartwheel by, the undercarriage of it, and then as we've all pulled up, watching old mate do the 100 metres and put Usain Bolt to shame, running up this hill to make sure everyone was alive.
Oh my God.
Do
they have the roll cages on the top? Like,
no.
Okay,
No,
so it's
no,
like
no.
Mario Kart, like just
Mario
you're
Kart. Yeah,
going
yeah.
into
With
the
a
ground.
helmet.
Okay,
like a
the
motorcycle
helmet really helps
yeah.
that. Yeah.
So Trent ended up with a pretty bad graze.
How does he graze? Wouldn't his head have been in trouble?
It was okay. Luckily, it was sort of like a side flip, and then he's ended up on top of this other one, and then his harness kept him in there. But they both of them were asking each other if they're okay. So Trent was like, "You all right?" And the other friend was like, "Yeah, I'm good. You all right?" And they were like, "Yeah, but you sure you're all right?" And they just went backwards and forwards for a bit until someone,
Who was at fault?
Definitely the other friend.
Okay,
Yeah. He's at fault for many things.
Okay, yeah. Is that like, so he's not talked to anymore?
Anyway.
Okay,
we'll just leave that there.
Sure,
Yeah,
for sure. Well, I mean, if I had a friend destroy me with a go-kart, I'd at least want him to sort of buy me something, as like a sorry. You know what I mean?
Well, I still think they both point fingers at each other.
Yeah.
And the gap closed, but it was one of those things like who was actually
Okay,
in the
so the
wrong,
gap
but-
closes is sort of like, you fucking closed the gap.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
Yeah. Huh.
Anyway, so yeah. And there's probably been plenty other times that he's been in a bit of discomfort, which was quite entertaining.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad that it's good that we can enjoy our friends' discomfort.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe that's the reason why we experience discomfort.
Our friends are entertaining.
Philosophize on it, like you never know. Why are we here? What is the reason for all things?
Yep.
Because it's funny when Trent gets hurt. I love you, Trent. Trent was a great best man. He delivered great speeches. It was good getting to know him over the wedding.
Nice.
All right. Ready? Yeah. That's a yes. That's an enthusiastic yes.
Yep. All right. I'm off.
Time. Yeah, I didn't mean to, but I have started.
I don't know whether starting the same way is wise, but I've done it.
Awesome. How you doing?
I'm doing exactly what I did last time, but anyway.
What do you think of Melbourne?
Melbourne's lovely. Melbourne countryside is much better than Melbourne city, so like Victorian countryside. So we were just fortunate enough to do a 3-day hike along the Great Ocean Road, which was absolutely amazing. Shout out to Life's an Adventure. If anyone wants to do a guided walk, would strongly recommend. Moira and Richard, the two best guides in Victoria. Well, only two guides for that company in Victoria, but still the best guides.
Yeah, and if you subscribe to our Patreon, you'll get their merch. Thanks to our sponsors today, BetterHelp.
What do you think of Melbourne?
Oh, okay. I think I have so much time to think about this answer. Now I don't, yeah. I think Melbourne is a very hodgepodge city of interesting things. I've been here for a year and 3 months now. There's so much in it that's just surprising, and there's so many different places. It's like you could go to, we were out at Camberwell yesterday, went to my cafe, had a feed. You walk around, that's just a money suburb. That's a money suburb. There's like, and lots of families and lots of retired people, and just like, and it's like very calm and peaceful, and the parks are pristine and everything like that. And then you could go out to, well, you could go to the CBD, and you're experiencing like, some, some Vietnam flashbacks or something. Like you're getting some near PTSD experiences. I don't know. It just depends where you're sort of heading. But it's like there's small towns and each has its different culture. If you go down to Caulfield, you're like, I think it's like 50% of the population in Caulfield to be Jewish, and so lots of synagogues and Jewish people down there, and a lot of theatres down there actually, and same with St Kilda. And then you head out west, you just have different cultures there, and and you go to Fitzroy and you have rich people dressing poor. Like, no, there's just a lot of different cultures, and that is what happened.
I made a move.
Oh, okay.
I just retreated.
That's what's happened.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a lot of things for everyone. It does also feel like when you think of Melbourne's history, it's like got that gold rush history, and it kind of feels like that in some sort of sense. It feels like a lot of people come here for that reason, like
to find gold.
Yeah, to find their version of that. I don't know if anyone's sort of like coming and dealing with the stress of the commute into work and the noise and the amount of people and the amount of different things. No one's doing that because that's their favorite thing to do. It's like everyone's here because there's something really important to do, and they like some of the rewards they might get from it, whether it's like they can buy some sort of nice place for their family, or there's like they get opportunities, or they set their kids up for a good life. Also the idea of like so many people are they're probably booking their kids in for the schools they want them to go to, like before they're even born. They're buying near $1 million homes in certain areas and getting in good with the certain schools and daycares or whatever, like to try and just set their kid up. And you imagine just being like fucking little 15-year-old shit kicker troll boy on YouTube all the time, fucking playing a bit of League of Legends. And it's like, wow, that much effort was put into me. It's a curious thought.
Yeah. It's interesting what you said about the different communities and that sort of stuff. I think there's what's happening here? I'm just gonna
keep going on about those communities.
Yeah. I will. I was going to do this, so I'll still do this because why not? Just so I can say to you, check. There we go. It's done. Yep.
What do you think of the different communities?
So what I was going to say is, I think one thing that we I'll just go back there. One thing that we, oh no,
I'm gonna give a little thought.
So one thing that we said.
You're terrible. All right, I'll turn it up.
No. Take it easy, please. One thing that we said yesterday was that. Now I'm just going to drag this out to wear down your timer.
Okay.
Oh, That's
So what I do is
Okay.
I
Yeah.
take a look at how much time I have versus how much time the other person has,
Yep.
and I choose whether I'm going to prioritize the content I'm,
Yeah.
or whether I'm going to prioritize making a move.
Fair enough.
If you wanna
So
do it.
one thing that we noticed very quickly when we got here the other day is just there's so much. And so I think, what you're talking about with your little communities is that people cannot deal with so much. So they retreat back into that small community and they make that their home.
Home base.
Like the number of coffee shops there are here, people just pick one coffee shop and that's what they go to if they have a good experience or whatever. You don't go to every coffee shop in Melbourne. Maybe some people do, but anyway, I think that's where a lot of that small community vibe comes from. Once again, I'm just verbal diarrheaing here.
Yeah, you're allowed to do. You can focus on the move. That's a satisfactory answer.
There we go. Oh, that's a bad move. Maybe.
No, it's
Anyway.
not bad.
All right.
Would you ever live in a Melbourne? Not in Melbourne, but in a Melbourne, you know?
Possibly. Yeah, I think if there was good reason, and it is a bit like what you're saying, is if there was a gold rush for us that meant that we could or needed to live in a Melbourne, then potentially we could do it.
What would that gold rush be?
I don't know.
Like if someone was like, Clayton, I'm going to double your salary if you move to a capital city.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a bit more.
Triple. yeah. We're at the negotiation table. How much can I pay you for this podcast? Episode
I don't know.
6, 7, 8.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, because they're going to be over bloody quick, aren't they? I don't know what our gold rush would be that would need us to move to a capital city. But I think we could do it because of the small community aspect that still is there. Like, yes, there's a lot, but you could potentially frame it in a way, like, establish yourself in your community and then not have to deal with everything else, if that makes sense.
I have a different train of thought for you. How many levels of thought do you have happening at once?
Oh, probably not as many as you think.
Are you like a one thought at a time? Can you multitask? What's your brain? What does it sort of do?
Yeah, I think there's like, there's the highway and then there's maybe a slip road. And the slip road though is like maybe gravel and it doesn't it's not great. As you can see, I'm struggling here, but I really don't know.
I think you're doing a great job, especially because you don't play chess ever, and nor do you ever talk on podcasts.
True.
Is this your first ever podcast? Nice.
Yeah. The only thing that comes close is I did, I don't know, like a 2-minute bit once on radio for a cricket competition that I was involved in organising in Toowoomba. But yeah, it was not long.
Yeah, fair. And you did drama in year 9.
Yeah, not well. I was much better at like setting the stage than actually being on the stage.
What do you like about that aspect of things, where it's like you know what I mean? Like, so I was just thinking about like the connection there with, I guess, what you were doing in Ethiopia and stuff. It seems like, because your job was like to support farmers, to help them grow, to help them with what they're doing
ultimately,
on their mission.
That
you know
was
what
the
I mean?
end goal, yeah. Right.
And then what you do in your work, you're providing like statistical methods and
so
for like instead of like, you're not the farmer, you're the person who like provides this like integral support for the farmer.
And it's like the farmer is the end person in the funnel, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's who we're doing this for. I can do that.
Do you see yourself primarily as like a supportive person or a supportive role? Do you like being a supporter?
we don't necessarily love the S word, as in we don't like to be viewed as a support service. We like to be viewed as collaborators.
Okay, for sure.
Research.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
No.
put a
it's all
slur
good,
on you
all
there.
good, it's all good. That's a business speak. But yes, we do. The role that we play, and I might ask Bethany for those great words that she came up with the other day about what statistics is and what statisticians do.
So statistics is the science of understanding and measuring uncertainty.
The science of understanding and measuring uncertainty.
Wow.
So we help the researchers to answer their particular research question that they may have. So it's not necessarily the farmers themselves that we interact with, but it's researchers that are looking to answer scientific hypotheses or research questions that we have the most to do with. But their, the end goal is in service to the growers. So their particular research question then helps the grower to do more, to grow a better crop, to get more yield, to manage their crop in a better way. That's sort of the end goal.
Sorry, I'm just making sure, Bethany.
Yeah,
it's fine.
All
Yep.
good. I'm gonna go here because why not? So I really need to ask you a question. So a little while ago, you were gluten intolerant, but you've sort of managed to overcome that. So what were your symptoms of being gluten intolerant?
See, is curious wording there. Overcome.
Yeah.
Was it ever?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is the grand question. I should probably get medical testing to see if I had anything specific. I think it came at a time where I was testing out my diet. So the first thing I did was I tried to be vegan because Rachel loves being vegan so much that I was like, yeah, give that a go, Rachel, our sister. I just she made some good points, and I was like, I should try it at least. And it didn't last long. I need a recovery steak every 2 weeks. The amount of stuff I do in my life, and it's I guess I tried my best to get all of the energy and stuff from other sources, but I guess I just wasn't set up to get that properly. And I couldn't afford feeling faint and not feeling quite myself, because I was I'd exercise every single day. I was doing 12-hour shifts and as a bartender and riding to and from work and stuff. So I sort of needed meat. So that's where I grew an appreciation for cows. I guess I grew an appreciation for the idea of that something was sacrificed in order for me to be able to be doing things I'm doing. So I should use it well. I should care about the meats I'm getting. It's hard to do that without a lot of money, but do what you can. So I was in a point of flux with my diet, and I even, I kind of felt off. I wasn't super employed at the time. I think I was just playing gigs in pubs and restaurants, and then during the day I wasn't doing anything. So it was one of these things of I was maybe looking for something that was wrong, and then I found it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I even thought I was lactose intolerant for a while and had oat milk for ages. And then I did actually start experiencing symptoms where it was I thought beer was making me a lot more bloated than it used to. And then I thought that there was this one specific time that I had a bunch of gingerbread from a gingerbread house I made with a friend of mine. And the next day I just I was just it was it was the Brown Sea, you know what I mean? So there were signs,
Yep.
certain signs, subtle signs. But yeah, and then it was fun to 2 years later live with a couple dietitians that were there's a fair chance that there's a mental element to this, that you might just be fucking faking it, mate. No. And then life was a lie, and that's all good. So, 2 years of being gluten-free. I wonder how much money that cost. But I was pretty happy to do it. A lot of gluten-free stuff tastes pretty good. I think I'm the type of person in my life where I like to try lots of things. So I wanted to try it,
Yeah, I know what's coming. Yep. All right. And I'm just back to where I was,
Yeah.
With one piece less.
So
during that time when you were going gluten-free because of, what you just described, you were working at a pretty cool bakery that we got to go and visit yesterday and had a lovely meal there. So what do you reckon? Did you tell the bakery when you were applying that you were gluten-free? Is that why you got the job? Because they thought, here we go, we've got someone that isn't going to eat all the food?
I've thought about that.
Yeah.
No, I didn't tell them I was gluten-free. It only came up. I think the bakery loves having people who work there that are that eat the food, because then they could take it home because there's stuff left at the end of the day.
Yep.
It was a great way for me to actually sort of control my diet, not being able to eat the treats. And there was an element to it where I was like, I was trying to drink less alcohol and trying to, not smoke and do all that sort of stuff. So it's like there was an element to this where it was almost like a way to flex my ability to control my own life. Have you ever had a time where you felt out of control of your life?
Right now.
Nice. Have you ever had points where it was like, oh wow, I think this is getting the better of me? Or have you always sort of felt like, oh no, I'm in the dry? I'm pretty sure, like I'm aware of everything that's going on. I can fix it.
Yeah. Yes. So, I have a bit of a lactose intolerance.
We're talking about the bowels a lot today.
So that's probably one thing that you can control your diet, but when there's such yummy things like cheese and ice cream,
that's your Achilles heel.
That's right.
Or Achilles bowel.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good way to put it. So that's something that is a bit of a bugger to control, and you can do what you can, but you're not ultimately in control of that. In the sense of, if you want to keep eating these foods, then you suffer the consequences. I had so much time, now I have none. This is a real pain.
So what advice would you give to a younger self? Not about lactose intolerance, in general. Yeah,
that's a good question. I feel like you're setting me up to die here.
That is chess.
Yeah, pretty much. What advice would I have for a younger self? I think all right.
You've got to move.
And I can't. Oh, you have. That's painful.
But you got a spot.
Yep.
Oh, gotcha.
Is that done?
I think so.
Oh, man.
Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. You drew that out quite well. Nice. All right. Well, we're not going to go. Well, yeah. No point going best of three. You really want to.
No, we can just chat for a bit. Yeah, without the stress of that. What advice would you give to a younger self? Or if you were ever to have a kid one day, what advice would you sort of? Yeah. What kind of? How do you help someone deal with tumultuous times?
I think it's maybe just be more chill. I think you can get quite caught up in everything, but it's, I suppose, So by be more chill, it's probably for me more like consider the forest more rather than the trees. So as in you can get bogged down in all the details, but remember what the ultimate goal is, or why you've planted all those trees or whatever, rather than looking at each individual one. So that would probably be, for my younger self, that would be something to say to keep that in perspective. How about you?
I really liked that, by the way. That was cool. Because you seem like quite a calm person, and like in control of. I just don't feel like there's too many things that would throw you.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it's a bit like the duck, on the outside, calm, but then paddling away underneath.
Yeah. What advice would I give to a younger self?
I think you've probably answered this question. I reckon either you've asked this of someone and they've shone it back on you.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's a classic reflective, question.
And then you can answer it, and then you can go back to the other pod and see whether or not you answered it the same. Anyway.
Continue eating gluten. It's a shame. It's false. It's a lie.
Yep.
I don't know. All the stuff that I've done in the past that was stupid is things that have helped to shape me into, that's a cliche, but things that I like about myself today. I was always a curious person and a curious kid, and was just curious about doing the things that I was told not to do, but more just to understand them, not because of any so I would do them, but I wouldn't do them defiantly and be like, it was more like a thing of like, I want to understand it. And I also felt like, I remember I really cared about being school captain. I wanted to be school captain when I was in school. And I remember there was just this part of it where it was like, I took it way too seriously in terms of like, oh my God, you're like a leader for like your grade. But I really loved, that was my unit. That was my grade. I cared about. And there was just a point where I was just like, the majority of these people are going out and partying or trying stuff. And I can't empathize and understand if I'm not there, if I'm not part of it as well. Wow. If I haven't gone out and experienced being like scared and young and trying out something, or if I haven't, it's like, but that's not like an advert for fucking smoking cigarettes and trying a little bit of your drink, but it was like this thing of like, the majority of people are doing this. Why? And that was always like a curiosity for me.
That's interesting too.
Yeah.
The need to relate to them, so then you go and expose yourself to the same thing, so that you could be there to support them. If they needed it, or to be able to better relate to them. Yeah.
I've always, I don't know why, but I always felt a deep need to be able to empathize with almost everyone.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know, I think a core thing is like that there are no like evil people. But that's a difficult one to sort of believe, but it's like, I think that is a belief I have more than a thought I have. Like, it's like, if I broke myself down, that exists there. But like, that isn't always what I would express. There was a question that I was asked when I was running for school leadership, and they were like, if a friend of yours, had smoked marijuana, would you inform the school? And I'm like, I'm smoking it every weekend. I'm like, no. I was like, I'd just have a really good chat with them, and I'd be like, do you understand, like this isn't maybe something you should be doing, and I tell them to talk to their parents or something. I wouldn't involve the school because I'd want to deal with it on a personal level. That's what I said I'd do,
Nice.
which is sort of true. And like weirdly enough now as a 25-year-old, I live a pretty clean lifestyle. And it's because I've figured out that I don't want to do things that ultimately hurt me and aren't helping me.
Yep.
That I don't want to chop my legs out from under myself. But I had to figure that out, and that's not the same for everyone, because some things like everyone has different sort of responses to different outside influences on their life and things like that. So it's like
It makes fascinating. And it puts a new lens or sheds a new light on other people's motivations to do those things. So I wonder, I don't know, I've never heard of anyone doing those activities so that they can empathize with others also doing those activities. So that's cool. As in, quite often it's more, what you've said, to be able to say, oh, well, you told me not to do it, so now I'm going to do it just to spite you. But yeah,
it was so disappointing when there wasn't something more fulfilling there. Weirdly,
but it's sort of like you would have been the coolest guidance counselor ever, because you could have related.
Timmy, what's that fucking? Give us a tote. Don't tell. No. That's terrible. But also I was just stupid. That's part of it. So I think, Clayton, you're in my head, the way I see you, I don't know if this is how you see yourself. I see you being someone who's potentially like a leader in the future in some sort of sense. Like, not 100% sure if that's politically or just philanthropy or something. I think you like looking at your life direction, you're going to be on track to be someone who is making important choices for people. What do you think leadership is, and do you see that for yourself in any sense? And
well, thank you to start with.
No worries, man. I got you. No.
Yeah, so I've done a little bit of that stuff already. I wouldn't claim that I've done it well, but I've done it. I suppose.
Have you done it poorly?
I'm just going to say I've done it averagely. So I wouldn't say...
I would say you're a bit humble. You're a bit of a humble pie at the moment. But anyway, please continue.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I've seen some really good leadership in my time, and so I suppose I try to emulate that. And yeah, I don't know whether I've done it well. So what... I suppose leadership, it's really multifaceted, I suppose, and like there's a dictionary definition and there's so many different styles of leadership, but yeah, I think the main thing for me is being someone that can get others along for the ride. So like getting that buy-in, getting a direction so that everyone feels, or setting a direction that everyone feels like they can contribute towards, and they understand why you're going in that certain way. There could be tough calls to make at different times and that sort of stuff, and that's part of being in that role as well. But I think those calls are better received if people understand, the overall objective and where you're going. I think perhaps the part of the leadership that I feel that, so maybe I can sort of do that part, or maybe I feel like I've been okay with that part. I think I'm still struggling a little bit with setting that direction. But the other thing that I think I've figured out as well is that it's not necessarily all on the leader to set that direction. And if you're doing it right, then potentially you're getting everyone else to help set that direction and figure out the way to go. So rather than just marching on forward and saying, follow me and here's why you should follow me, it's more, okay, guys, well, which way do we think we need to go, and how, and listening to what's being said, and then bringing that information together to then inform the decision.
You're helping to empower people within the group who are good at that certain area to also lead.
That's right.
Okay, yeah.
That's right. So I'm sure there's probably a word for that type of leadership style. But at the same time, I'm not solely that. I think there's a lot to leadership. I
think that's a good or an important part of it. It's like, make sure everyone in the team understands why you're even there and like what you're doing, and then like making sure they're coming along, because it's so interesting. There's so many like managers and leaders who end up taking frustration out on their team, who end up criticizing, belittling, making their team feel small, and not at all caring if they're along for the ride or not. Why do you think that a lot of people end up in positions of leadership that shouldn't exactly be there?
I think there's the classic saying that maybe is more prevalent in public service than in other areas, that people get promoted to a level above their capability.
Yeah.
And then they sort of get stuck there.
Because they can't go any higher.
Well, they can't go any higher, and they can't really go backwards because there's no real performance management anymore in many, many different areas. That can often be, or maybe that could be something that drives that type of thing, is that person themselves feels like they're not doing a great job, but then they don't have the ability to say that, so then they take it out in different ways. I think the other word that you used there as well was manager, and I think manager and leader are different things.
Different, yeah.
And that you can still be a leader without being in a management position at all.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting scenario to be in. You see that happening sometimes, and it can sometimes be very well received. And I think I've been very fortunate to have leaders above me that recognize that fact that you can be a leader as a subordinate as well. So that, I've been very fortunate with that. You can also see the opposite, where you get someone who is meant to be a leader, and then someone below them starts to show some of those tendencies, and they try and squash them back down.
Yeah, because they're worried about their position. Yeah,
that's right. And that may be where you end up in more of a management role, because you'll take the title of leader, but really you may not be doing too much leading, and more just managing the day-to-day side of things.
It's weird. It's like if you're a leader and you have a manager, often one of your like primary jobs or things that takes up your energy is to try and make them feel okay with you being there. Like I'm supporting you. You're like it's helping to make them feel like helping their ego to be okay. But
if they themselves are a leader, then they should, sort of recognize that, and then give you something to keep you occupied, which then means they have more time to do other things and focus in other areas.
True.
And I think, that's, if you can get in one of those scenarios, awesome.
Giving people a job.
Yeah, and unfortunately, sometimes it's hard to come by.
Yeah. It's important to give people jobs, jobs that are like feel important or explained that they're important, because like then they feel valued, and they also have enough level of stress, that they're not doing nothing. If you had to speak to, in Australia, or we can bring this back to like more local, but it's like, what do you think is one issue that is extremely important right now, that should attention should be given to try and solve, or alternatively, what is something that doesn't get enough light that you would think should sort of be focused on?
I don't know. That's a good question. We're a bit disconnected from the news and that sort of stuff, so we don't keep up to date.
It doesn't have to be from a news perspective. Yeah, that's okay.
Closely as I don't know. It would be all that topical, but something that needs to be addressed at the moment or shed more light on. So I was going to ask you, and so we can answer this question, but I'll answer. So the question I was going to ask you,
that's okay. Sorry.
Was if you had a catchphrase, what would it be? Now I'm going to answer mine if you want to send it back to me, but it might help answer this question.
Yeah.
So my catchphrase would be, I don't know.
Okay. Epic.
I find that I say that a lot. Partially as a statistician, because we can never be 100% confident of anything. But also because I think that's an important perspective to have. And potentially that's the thing that could be addressed more at the moment is I won't say everyone. There seems to be a very big tendency at the moment that people know a lot of things, and potentially they don't know as much as they think they know.
Yeah.
And so a bit of a perspective shift to say it's okay to say I don't know.
Yeah.
And if you do know, then speak up. Yeah.
That's one of the. That's like you placed things and then delivered an extremely smart answer to that question. I was like, I'm curious, but that's such a good point. Everyone needs to have that hot opinion and like the clickbait titles and things like that. But it's like that's a good point. It's like, what the fuck is that question? What's the biggest issue? It's like, none of us could really know because it's going to be different for everyone, right? Yeah. I have no clue what my catchphrase would be. I was thinking of, like, when you were talking about the idea of certainty and stuff. It's like I could tell you what Bethany's catchphrase is, yo yo yo, but I can't, like, self knowledge and selling myself has always been a difficult thing for me. Every time I have to write a resume or put in a bio or something, like there's a million angles I could go and none of them feel like me.
Yeah.
Catchphrase.
I reckon some of the best bios that I've written are for other people. So like when I've had to write a blurb about, our team or something like that at work, and I need to write that for others, then I feel much better and more capable of writing that. So you could do that. You could ask someone else to write your bio.
That's
and
true.
Then just tidy around the edges.
Well, I sort of did that on a recent thing. I got a director that I'd worked with previously, and then Gabe, a mate of mine, to write character references
from Chess with Josh.
From Chess previously, from Chess with Josh, to write character references for me.
Yep.
Because I just hate trying to sell myself.
Yep.
And everything I write feels disingenuous.
Yep.
Maybe genuinely, or here's the thing, might be catchphrases of mine. Apparently, I say those a lot. I've heard from outside sources. I've been informed.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And I think the biggest issue facing us today is gluten. So it's a plague, There's apparently there was. Oh, this is just random knowledge that's in my brain for no reason. Have you heard of dwarf wheat?
Yeah.
And there's like, it was like Borg, Neil, is it Neil Borg or someone?
Borlag.
Okay, yeah. Made like an advancement in agriculture because basically it was just like wheat was heavy and was falling. Yeah. Yep. So then how the fuck do you create Do you know more about this than?
Yeah, so I think native wheats and were very tall, and so wheat is effectively like a grass in a sense. So you're right. If the aim in agriculture quite often is to get more yield, so more grain, and so
From the same amount of land.
From the same amount of land. So to be able to do that, then you end up with heavier heads of grain or heavier heads of wheat. So yes, if the crop is too tall, then it gets too top heavy and it will fall over.
Yeah.
So I don't know when it happened, but you're right that the wheat varieties and potentially barley as well were dwarfed to make them shorter in stature, and so that then made them easier to keep upright and then also easier to harvest, because you then don't have as much plant that you need to get rid of, because what we're ultimately interested in is just the wheat, the grain.
So it's so interesting where it's like, if you ask the question of like, what is the biggest issue today to someone, no one would really think wheat, and how tall it is would be. But at that time, there were people who were thinking about how do we solve a problem.
Yep.
And then doing so, I'm pretty sure just like the amount of people that were helped, potential lives that were saved from, starvation and famine not being a factor anymore in that. So it's like, and then you think about how you could put, like you're doing a PhD at the moment, and it's like, but specializing in a certain area and putting a large amount of time and effort towards very specific areas of research, no one would really understand. But if it's the right one, can have this domino effect where it's like it solves problems people wouldn't even think about in 50 years because they never experienced that problem. They actually, it was solved.
Yep. And that's the beauty of science, is that we it's that construction job. You're building sometimes very small advancements, sometimes larger, but it's all building on top of what's come before us.
And at some point, gluten was the biggest problem facing the world.
Absolutely,
I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. Clayton, is there anything you'd like to say to sort of cap off this experience before this camera runs out of battery, which it will?
All right. Not really. It was a fun experience. Thank you for having me, even though I lost both games, but that's all right. And yeah.
Was it fun?
I think the conversation has been fun.
The conversation has been fun. I've enjoyed it a lot.
And I feel like we could just keep going.
Yeah, 100%.
That's really nice. There's the chess we could just have with Josh rather than chess with Josh. Just with Josh.
Well, I've thought about that where it's like there's some people who I think the chess is very good for because it's like an entertaining. Like Ava, I think it was great to play chess with her because it's extremely fun watching Ava stressed out, and she has ADHD brain. So she's like, and it's like Ben as well. Like it was, but then it's like the chat was more important here than the chess. You know.
Yep, Bethany's up next, and she may actually be good with chess.
It's true, and that up next will be tomorrow, but because of the battery problem, which is so if you want to subscribe to our Patreon, I don't have the money to pay for all the equipment I'd love. If you want to see 2-hour versions of this podcast, there's zero way for you to donate to it, but just imagine, just send a message. Oh my God, I'd love to give you money. This is fun. I'm so glad you were on. Our berets, let's give the context. Your father-in-law, Mr. My dad, Aldo, always wears a beret, and that's as
Very
far as the
stylish
context
man.
goes. Yeah.
Yep.
The subtext there. Now we're part of the same Peaky fucking blinders.
Yeah, well, and the last thing on that, so the Peaky Blinders put the razor blades in there. What would be the Australian equivalent? Would we have like a box cutter in there or something? Like a Stanley knife?
Yeah, or like just a fucking broken beer glass. It's just like, yeah, something like that. What's the Australian weapon?
Yeah.
We'll just put a huntsman in there.
Yeah. Fair point. Anyway,
Yeah.
We'll leave the listeners
Well,
and viewers
yeah.
with that one to ponder.
Yeah, and in a way, I've had our own sort of Australian weapon on this podcast today. The bloody, he's a panther in front of the cricket on the cricket pitch.
Supposedly, it's
Yeah,
a very
that's what I've heard.
slow-moving,
Yeah.
uncoordinated panther.
Yeah,
Potentially at the end of its life.
a panther or a panda. Anyway, thank you very much, Clayton.
Thank you, Josh. There we go.
This was good.
Cool.
All right, now you can press that, and then I'll stop that. Thank you.
Thank you.